Hey guys, Dustlater Magic here, and it's time to finally make the video that you've all been waiting for. As you hopefully saw in a very recent video, which you should watch if you haven't, I have a very particular way of calculating the average return, or effective value as they call it, of a box. It's actually just of a booster and then multiplied by the number of boosters. You can do either, but it makes more sense as a box, because a lot of people buy boxes. So I always use Card Kingdom, not because, I think they have the most accurate prices in the world. I mean, they do have reasonably accurate prices, of course, but mostly because I can copy and paste off the website because it's in an HTML table, which is compatible with Excel and LibreOffice. So watch that if you haven't, because it's the exact method that I use for this report. This method of calculating the EV of a box, I actually nicknamed it. It's called the correct way to do it. Other people have come up with other final values and amounts, and they're either just outright wrong, or they used a different vendor's prices, which could be somewhat drastically different. But as far as Card Kingdom is concerned, here is the final actual value estimate of Eternal Masters as it sits right now. Now, before I say what it is, I should probably mention that I did include uncommons in here, but not commons. I think the highest common was like 99 cents, so I thought, whatever. I mean, the market's going to collapse on those on day one anyway. But I think there was a couple uncommons in there worth like $10 and a couple worth like $4, so I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I might as well, throw them in there, because that's a considerable amount of money, at least for a couple days until the price potentially crashes. But we're talking day one, and there's not a lot of this set to go around. So the average uncommon is worth 82 cents, and if you multiply it by 3, because you get 3 uncommons, it's $2.47, which is pretty impressive. That is a huge amount of money per booster. The average value of the card that will show up in the rare or mythic spot, so just the value of the spot itself, so double counting rares, single counting mythics on a per card basis as they exist on the sheet, $9.25. So you can see why those uncommons are very important, because that's not exactly $9.99, which is the MSRP. But the other factor is, of course, foils, and just like the other Masters sets, this set has a foil in every single booster. So you don't have to divide the amounts by 4 to say that only 1/4 of all boosters have foils. You get one in every single one, which is a huge redeeming quality because, well, foils are worth quite a bit. Unfortunately, and this is where people are going to pick apart my math, Card Kingdom didn't have any pre-order prices posted for foils, like at all. So, unfortunately, I just had to base it on past experience, which this is very, very debatable. Some people would say that the value should be higher, because this is Eternal Masters and the cards are ultra rare, and some of these were never printed as foils ever, so the foils might be, double or triple the value. While other people say, hey, the foils are practically worthless because every single booster has a foil, and it's not that big of a set, so there's going to be a lot of foils floating around. But then other people will say, hey, Vintage and Legacy players evidently have money, so of course they're going to go for a foil version, and that will drive the price up higher. So, unfortunately, I just had to take the average value of an uncommon and the average value of a rare mythic and multiply it by 1.5. So if you have a 25-cent uncommon, that's 37.5 cents. Honestly, it's probably higher. Now, if you had an $80 rare, is it really going to be worth 120 foil? I feel like it will. I actually feel like in the past, on the average set, it's closer to 1.6 to 1.7 times the value, but I thought, hey, I might as well be conservative. You'd rather have a more valuable pack that you thought was worth less than the other way around. Trust me, I've made thousands and thousands of dollars worth of mistakes on spreadsheets before by getting a value wrong or putting a decimal in the wrong spot. And yeah, I made a little bit less than I anticipated then on certain sets. Well, that and the U.S. Postal Service changed all of their shipping rates a couple days before the launch. But anyway, if you take all of those values, like for example, the average value of 3 commons, which is what you get in one booster, and then multiply it by 1.5 to get the foil value, then multiply it by 0.33, then multiply that by exactly 0.33, because uncommons are 33% of the set, by sheet prevalence, the quantity on the sheet that gets cut to go into the set. That is the only proper way to measure it. If you simply divide it by the number of commons and then the number of total cards in the set, you will get a incorrect number, because mythics are printed at half the amount on the sheet. So uncommons are basically 160 cards out of 483 on the actual physical sheet that gets cut. Or, well, it's more than one sheet. So I did that for the uncommons and the rares, and then left out the foil commons because I just don't think they're worth that much. And then obviously, yes, the mythics are included in the rares. I just consider that all one slot. You get a final individual booster pack expected value of $16.43. That means that times 24, so in one box, you would be expected to have a box worth $394.35. Now, if you think every single foil across the board, not counting commons, will actually be worth exactly double the cost of a non-foil, then you're looking at $432 even, right on the dot. Who knew? If you think that foils as a whole are worth 1.2 times the value of the non-foil card, so shrinking it way down, you actually come up with $371.76 per box. So my estimate floating in around $394 a box is pretty much as accurate as I can get it. Now, if you want to think of things really on the bright side, let's just say every single common is worth 25 cents across the board. You're going to pull 10 of them per booster. I think that's how they're arranged. And then multiply it by 24 packs. You're going to get an extra $60. The problem is you are not going to sell them for that price. I mean, that's just not going to happen. And plus, I never added in the common foils. So theoretically, all things considered, like the absolute end of the day value, it's up in the high 400s. But you might be wondering, what does it come out to if you measure it the way I do, which is every single card worth $1.99 or less is actually worth $0 because I can't sell it because it's too expensive to ship. That's when things start to not look so good. I did exactly that, changed every single value to $0 if it was $1.99 or lower. And at 1.5x for foils, which I returned that to the value because I think it's accurate, you get $334.37 per box. So still above MSRP, and that's good because it helps out people like me. But a ton of those were $2.49 on the dot. So on eBay, because eBay prices are always below Card Kingdom, you're looking at probably like $1.80, and then you start losing fees and you start losing flat shipping amounts. You're probably looking at about 50% loss on any card that's worth $2.49. I'm not going to do the math on that, but I know it'll land right around the MSRP of the box, basically. It would be above it, but it would be a heck of a lot closer to it. But hey, that's great news for you guys, because if you pick up a box, it's worth whatever I said earlier in the video. I have permanently modified my spreadsheet without saving an extra copy because I only care about the cards below $1.99 being worth $0. What did I say? $3.80 something? Whatever. I still wouldn't pay $3.50 a box though, and I've heard about that. So if you look online, like if you want a sealed box on eBay, which most of those sellers are not allowed to sell sealed product on eBay, but that's another thing. I just would not support that in any way. I think those people are primarily taking advantage of some person who lives, 100 miles away from any kind of local gaming store, like too far away to drive there and pick up an actual, box of Eternal Masters. Or if the local gaming store got screwed on the numbers that they're receiving and then they ran out of pre-orders, so they're guaranteed to get $0. Oh, now they're taking advantage of those people by tacking on an extra 100 and throwing them online. So yeah, you could get a box all you want as long as you're willing to pay 100 over what you should. So just because the value is even above like $3.50 per box, that doesn't mean you should pay that much. Like, I just wouldn't support price hiking and price gouging at all. That said, I did pay a hair above MSRP because I really like my local gaming store. I like the fact that they let me actually pre-order it even though I had to pay up front. And, I did think that the price was reasonable. It was barely like $9 or $10 above MSRP, and that's it. I thought that was reasonable. I do not think $330 to $350 box is reasonable no matter what the EV of the box is. So please do not support that at all. At the very least, there's probably going to be boxes for sale in the foreseeable future for at least a couple months after the release. If it's anything like Modern Masters 2, it'll be for a year after the release. But it won't be because there's less to go around. But then again, the demand for Legacy and Vintage is quite a bit lower than Modern, obviously. But then again, there's Commander players scooping up all these cards and the singles and stuff. But are Commander players, which is more of a casual format, really willing to buy an entire sealed box? Who knows? There's all these factors. Who knows? But I don't think the world is going to be sold out 2 weeks after the release. I just don't see that coming. So at least, everybody hold back and see if the prices drop down to like $270 a box online or something at least a little bit more reasonable. Or if at all possible, go to your local gaming store and buy up some of their boxes, or usually one is what they're limiting people to. I mean, I doubt they're going to get stuck with them, but still, it's a nice, I don't know, show of support, I guess. So that is the final report as it sits on Eternal Masters. If you have a different ratio you'd like to suggest about the foils, don't really care because I gave a range from 1.2 to 2.0, but if you have a more constructive comment, please leave it down in the comments section. Or since I was super lazy, if you went to a different vendor and all the singles are 30% lower than Card Kingdom or 100% higher or something, that would be interesting to note as well. Because with a set like this, a lot of people could be way off the mark with their pre-order prices. You just never know. I mean, they do all kind of look at each other's and kind of sync them up a little bit. Who knows if there's literally centralized price fixing? I kind of doubt it. But regardless, I think you can, safely assume that the number I came up with is a pretty reasonable number. So if you buy a box and open it, you will probably make money on it. Other people have quite literally said you will lose a ton of money, and those people are wrong because they're basing it on really bad incorrect math or really drastically pessimistic prices. Hopefully this video helped you guys out, and I will see you next video.